There is a seed no supplement company ever invented. It was already ancient when Moses was born. It existed before the first pyramid rose from Egyptian sand, before any physician wrote a single prescription, before any factory pressed a single capsule. When modern scientists finally measured what was inside the seed, they found 3 times more iron than spinach. Not from a powder, not from a tablet. From one tiny seed that grew wild in the fields of ancient Israel and fed an entire civilization for longer than any crop on earth. Here's the seed, the exact verse God named it in, the science that finally explains why it worked, and how to bring it back to your table starting this week. This is Biblical Nutrition Secrets. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is the time. But I am not going to tell you its name just yet, because first you need to understand where it came from and why the modern world walked right past it. Stay with me. Picture the Jezreel Valley in northern Israel, not the Israel of today, the ancient one, long before Solomon built his temple, long before David wore a crown. Archaeologists excavating this valley found something that stopped them completely. Buried beneath centuries of accumulated earth, storage jars, dozens of them, sealed. When they opened those jars, they found seeds still inside, seeds that had been sitting undisturbed for over 4,000 years. And when botanists analyzed those seeds, they identified them immediately. The same seed appears in Egyptian tomb paintings, in ancient Mesopotamian agricultural records, in early Hebrew texts describing the harvest calendar. Every civilization that farmed the biblical world knew this seed. Every household in the Fertile Crescent grew it. It fed the workers who built the pyramids. It sustained the armies that marched through the desert. It was ground every morning in every household from Dan to Beersheba. And then, quietly, almost without anyone noticing, it disappeared from the modern table entirely. The seed is lentil. In Hebrew, adasim. The word appears throughout Scripture not as background detail, but as foreground provision. In Genesis chapter 25, Esau returns from the field completely exhausted and trades his birthright for a bowl of lentil stew. Most sermons focus on the trade, but the embedded assumption is the interesting part. The lentil stew was worth trading for because lentils were understood to be serious nourishment, fast fuel for a depleted body. In 2 Samuel chapter 17, verse 28, when David is fleeing Jerusalem, exhausted, hunted, desperate, the people who meet him bring lentils among the provisions, not as a side dish, as a primary source of strength for a man who needs to survive. And in Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 9, God gives the prophet a specific bread recipe that includes lentils by name, the bread that sustains Ezekiel through the most difficult season of prophetic ministry in all of Scripture. 3 different books, 3 different moments of crisis and provision. Same seed every time. God was not being repetitive. He was being emphatic. Now let me show you what that seed was actually doing inside the bodies of the people who ate it. 1 cup of cooked lentils delivers 18 grams of protein. The same cup delivers 6.6 milligrams of iron, 3 times more than an equivalent serving of spinach. It delivers 15 grams of fiber, more than most Americans consume in an entire day. Lentils have a glycemic index of just 32. White bread comes in at 75. That means lentils release energy so slowly and so steadily that blood sugar stays completely stable for hours after eating. A clinical study published in the Archives of Internal Medicine followed over 64,000 women and found that higher legume consumption was associated with a 38% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes, not from a medication, from a food. A 2022 meta-analysis confirmed lentils measurably reduce LDL cholesterol, lower inflammatory markers, and support gut microbiome diversity simultaneously. 3 separate biological systems improved from 1 seed. That costs less than $1 a pound. And here is what stops me every time I read this. The people eating lentils in Scripture had zero access to nutritional science, no glycemic index, no clinical trials, no peer-reviewed journals. They just watched what happened to people who ate this seed consistently, and they kept eating it for thousands of years because the results were undeniable. If this is already opening your eyes, hit subscribe right now and tap the bell. Every single week on Biblical Nutrition Secrets, we go exactly this deep into what ancient wisdom and modern science are confirming together. You do not want to miss what is coming. Now let's keep going to SO if lentils were this ancient and this powerful. Why did the modern world stop eating them? Two things happened. First, the protein industry. In the 1980s, high-protein marketing shifted the entire Western world toward animal protein and powdered supplements. Lentils, which deliver more protein per dollar than almost any food on Earth, were quietly repositioned, not as a primary protein source, as peasant food, as something eaten in developing countries because people could not afford anything better. The language of poverty replaced the language of provision. Then came ultra-processed food. A generation raised on white bread and breakfast cereal lost the taste for foods that required any preparation at all. The seed that sustained David through exile. The seed God named in 3 separate books of Scripture. The seed that built and fed an entire civilization for 4,000 years. Was moved to the ethnic food aisle and forgotten by most of the people who needed it most. But here is the thing. The seed never left. It has been sitting there this entire time. And today you are going to bring it back. Picture the camp of David in the wilderness east of the Jordan. The fire has burned low. The men around it are exhausted from days of hard travel, on poor sleep and little food. A woman moves quietly between them, carrying a clay pot. She sets it in the center. The smell reaches them before she lifts the lid. Lentils slow cooked with wild onion and cumin and a drizzle of olive oil. The men eat in silence, not because they have nothing to say, because the food demands full attention, because something in their bodies is recognizing exactly what they needed. Within an hour, the exhaustion has shifted. Not gone, but manageable. The iron is moving through their blood. The protein is rebuilding what the road took from them. The fiber is feeding the gut bacteria that regulate their immune response. They do not know any of that. They just know they feel like themselves again. That is what God put in a seed. That is what the modern world traded for a protein shake. Here is how to bring this back to your table starting today. First, the easiest version. Buy dried green or brown lentils from any grocery store. 1 pound costs between $1 and $2 and feeds a family of 4 multiple meals. Rinse them. No soaking required. Add 1 cup of lentils to 3 cups of water or broth. Bring to a gentle boil, then reduce to a simmer for 20 to 25 minutes. Add cumin, garlic, olive oil, and a squeeze of lemon. That is the biblical combination. That is the preparation the ancient world used. For those ready to go further, grow them. Lentils grow in any container, at least 8 inches deep. Fill with well-drained potting mix. Plant seeds 1 inch deep and 4 inches apart. Place in full sun 6 hours minimum. Water every 2 to 3 days. In 60 to 70 days, the pods will dry on the plant. Shell them by hand. The same motion used in those ancient fields. Save a handful for next season. 1 planting feeds your family. The seed that sustained David in exile can grow on your apartment balcony. Right now, 4,000 years ago, someone sealed lentil seeds in clay jars in the Jezreel Valley. They did not know archaeologists would open those jars centuries later. They did not know scientists would measure what was inside. They just knew the seed was worth keeping, worth preserving, worth passing to the next generation. 3 times more iron than spinach. 38% lower diabetes risk. LDL cholesterol reduced. Gut microbiome restored. From a seed God named 3 times in his own word. From a seed that costs less than a cup of coffee. From a seed that has been sitting in the ethnic food aisle waiting for you to remember what it is. Do not let another week pass buying iron supplements and protein powders when God already put the answer in a seed. Go buy a bag of lentils today. Cook the biblical recipe tonight. And if it's opened your eyes, share it right now with someone whose body is running on empty. A parent, a friend, someone who deserves to know this. Hit like, subscribe, tap the bell. New revelation every single week right here on Biblical Nutrition Secrets. The seed has been waiting. It is time to remember what it is.